The Department of Education has released new guidelines for schools with positive COVID-19 cases, changing quarantine and isolation times for students and staff. And TCV 11's Ashley Godwin tells us what they are and how they could impact your children.
It's been 1 week since schools have started back for this spring semester, and in that 1 week there have already been 42 schools that have modified to virtual instruction. So the Arkansas Department of Education has made some changes to their COVID-19 guidelines.
The CDC did issue updated guidance that basically said that under certain circumstances, the number of days for quarantine and isolation can be reduced.
If you test positive for COVID, you must stay home for at least 5 days. If you feel better after 5 days with no fever or symptoms, then you may return to school. But you're also encouraged to wear a mask consistently for 5 more days. Now, quarantine is different from isolation. Quarantine is for when you get exposed to someone with COVID. If you're not up to date on your COVID shots, you need to quarantine for 5 days. But you don't need to quarantine if you've had all your vaccines, including a booster if you're eligible. Also, you don't need to quarantine if you had COVID in the past 90 days.
Districts can modify if they have need to modify a class, a grade level, or a classroom. They can quickly modify or pivot to online instruction if they need to. But if it's going to be a school-wide or a district-wide modification, they have to use one of their 10 alternative methods of instruction.
Something else that's different this year, how schools pivot to virtual learning. The state no longer has a special emergency order in effect, so schools have to go back to use their AMI days when they go virtual, or they can simply shut down and make up days later in the year. Now, to help put this all into perspective, last year during the fall semester, 411 schools pivoted virtually during that time. This year during the fall, there were only 54 schools. In Little Rock, Ashley Godwin, THV 11 News.
Now, Arkansas does not have a statewide mask mandate, so it's up to the individual school districts to decide whether they're necessary.